Hello, my friends. This is Lynda Lippin, and welcome to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back one more time to the Pilates Goddess podcast. This is your host, Lynda Lippin. Today's podcast, I am talking to all the new Pilates teachers out there. Whether you're a new Pilates teacher who's just teaching mat, whether you're just teaching reformer, whether you're entering your teacher training, whether you are teaching classes, whether you are teaching privates, whatever it is, if you are struggling at all to figure out what to teach, to figure out why and when and how, today's podcast is for you. Okay. I'm going to talk today about pacing, about understanding what you're teaching and why you're teaching it, understanding the exercises and how they work together and how they flow together, and ultimately how to give your clients the best and safest possible Pilates experience that will still keep them getting strong and coming back for more. Because that's really what we're looking at, right? We don't want our clients to just come to us once. We want our clients to continue to come back. Okay. So let's talk first about your approach to Pilates and your approach to Pilates in your own body. I'm reading a lot about Pilates teacher trainings for mat, for reformer, some of which are all online, where even live people aren't getting a huge amount of time. In fact, sometimes I'm hearing 5 minutes or less to teach the exercises and be taught the exercises by other people in the workshop. And this to me is really bad. Okay, I think it's really important, especially in a live workshop environment, that you get the opportunity to teach, be taught by different people and ask a lot of questions and get answers. So if you are kind of walking into your Pilates teaching experience, but you don't feel like you have the work yet in your own body, okay, the first thing that I invite you to do is start your own self-practice. And if you're not sure about your own self-practice, there are lots of teachers online, including myself, who will, especially for simple mat and reformer, like beginning intermediate, who can just take you through that work online and give you constructive cues and usually share the videos with you so that you have a place to work from and you can see what's being corrected and how your body responds to different cues. I mean, even if you're doing tons of work in a studio, doing a Zoom session like that, I think can be extraordinarily useful. Again, for your own understanding of the work and how it feels in your body. Because sometimes I'm reading, comments from Pilates instructors where you're saying like, well, I put all my clients, when I put them in, say, tabletop with legs, they are all feeling strain in their hip flexors for all of this time that we're doing X. And part of me wants to say, why don't you take your own body through your class? Just take your own body through your class. And if you start feeling hip flexor strains in different positions, understand that if you're feeling that, your clients are probably feeling that even more. And then you want to think about ways to kind of stop that, or ways to make that less painful or less straining in different positions, or, get different muscles to be working in the group. I always say that doing Pilates exercises in many ways is like asking your body parts to work together like a working group in school or at work, where sometimes some people just like to slough off and ride the group grade. And then other people like me are the overachievers who will go to do all the work and carry the group, right? So our bodies work like that in many ways. And I always say, like, what we're trying to get all the muscles, we're trying to get all the body parts to come to the party, right? To get the work done and get the work integrated. So I think a lot of times we kind of will write down, say, a class flow or something that sounds really good. If you haven't done it yourself, there may be parts of it that aren't going to feel great for your clients. Okay, so getting at least, again, the beginning and intermediate work in your own body is crucially important. I understand that many of us, myself included, now have injuries. We have arthritis. We have other stuff going on. We may not be doing all of the high level, intermediate, and advanced work, but we can all do beginning and intermediate. And if we need to modify some of those exercises, we can. And learning how to modify is key here. So I'm going to give you just a couple of rules of modification. There are more. I discussed that in earlier episodes of the podcast. And in my Pilates Teacher Mastermind Facebook group, there's a couple of teacher training videos that talk about modification. But a basic way to modify is to shorten the lever, right? So maybe things aren't as far away from the body. Maybe they're a little bit closer to the body. If people are feeling hip flexor strain in tabletop, I recommend you have them bring their knees a little closer to their chest. And I'm going to bet the hip flexor strain goes away. Okay. A second way is to kind of figure out what it is that your client isn't doing. So if you have somebody with osteoporosis who, say, isn't doing loaded thoracic flexion, then you know that you're going to modify their 100 to keep the head down. You know that you are going to modify their short spine stretch into frog and leg circles, okay? You might know that you're going to modify their ab series head down. Still figuring out how to keep the spine on the mat as we're moving the legs and doing things with the arms. So, once you sort of know the series, then it becomes, and you know it in your body, then to think of modifications or variations or maybe a slight difference in order or something like that, thinking of that on the fly becomes a lot easier. Because that basic knowledge is just in your brain. I was talking to a new teacher yesterday, in fact, and she was saying that, she has a disc herniation in her lumbar spine. And so really she's only doing footwork on the reformer. And I kind of thought to myself and then said to her, well, you could do footwork. You can certainly do 100. You could do leg circles and frog instead of short spine. You can certainly do coordination. You can do any of the rowing that doesn't involve right now the flexion, because she's supposed to avoid flexion, forward flexion, according to her physical therapist. You could do pull straps and T. You can do backstroke. I mean, chest expansion, thigh stretch. I just went through like the whole series and said, here are all of the things you could actually add on the reformer that is not going to take you into flexion and is going to work your body in an appropriate way. And that's ultimately where you want your brain to go. So if you are a teacher who has not been kind of taught in this way, like to know the beginning Pilates and then know the intermediate Pilates and then kind of go from there, I feel like you've kind of been done a disservice because it will help you as a teacher. Okay, it will help you kind of decide what to do next on the fly, how to add modification and variation on the fly, okay, and give your clients a great Pilates experience. Understand that most people are coming to Pilates. Obviously, if you're teaching in a mega former studio, they're coming for a different kind of workout. But most people are coming to Pilates, like plain old Pilates, because they think it's a safe and effective workout. So, especially in their first classes, it is not the time to be bringing out fancy shit. It is not the time to have people standing on the reformer doing side splits. It is the time to kind of keep them safe. And can they ultimately move into something like side splits after a class or two if they're feeling stable? Sure, they could. But there's a lot of other basic work that they need to learn first so that they be stable in a movement where they're standing on the reformer and can possibly fall. If you as a teacher are kind of scared to teach because you don't feel it in your body, find it in your body first. Then when you go to teach people, what I recommend that you do is, number one, teach what you know. Teach what you know. So if you're super comfortable with the beginning work, then, map your classes around the beginning work. If you are comfortable teaching beginning and intermediate, then bring more intermediate exercises into your classes. But if you teach what you know for sure and what you're comfortable with, again, your client will have a better experience because you will be taking them through a safe and effective workout. If you would like to know this, if you would like to know just the beginning and intermediate, like classical, mat, and reformer, so that you have this basis to then say, okay, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and we're going to skip, B and D, and then we're going to come into something else. If you want to be able to do this on the fly, if you want to have that kind of fundamental work, the back to basics work in your system, then I would love it if you would join me in June. I will be at Bombshell Pilates on West 20th Street here in Manhattan on June 8th and 15th from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This will be a live action, like come see me in the studio workshop. As well as a Zoomed live stream workshop. Everyone will get copies of the replays. Everyone will get a manual. And we are simply going to spend 1 week going through beginning and intermediate mat, getting it into our bodies, teaching each other, asking questions, understanding why we're doing these exercises, why it's in a certain order, and then how to modify and vary from there. And in the second week, we will be doing reformer. So you can attend this Zoom wise from home. You can also attend this from a studio. This workshop is literally, I put this together for new teachers. I put this together for you if you want to enter a classical teacher training or a bridge program and need to know this work for yourself. But I'm also putting this out to all new Pilates teachers, however you're teaching. If you want to just know in a judgment-free zone, the beginning and intermediate classical Pilates mat and reformer to inform your own work and your own teaching, that's what this workshop is for. And if you sign up now, before mid-May, You will save 10% if you use code EARLYBIRD at checkout. One word, EARLYBIRD at checkout. Space in the studio is limited. I would love to see you guys there. As always, the links to register will be in the show notes, as well as links to contact me and check out my groups on Facebook, including Pilates Teacher Mastermind and Strong Bones Pilates. Thank you guys so much, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Music brought to you by Nerd Salad. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, especially if you liked it. And please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks.